Hello and welcome to our home ground. This is our introductory episode where I'm going to give a little bit of information about what I'm hoping this podcast is going to be, what it's going to look like. And I'm just so excited about it. So let's get into it. This is a podcast where women's soccer feels personal and powerful, and we get to talk about the incredible impact that the game is having off the pitch. So, a lot of our discussion will, of course, be fueled by what's going on, like on the pitch, what these women are doing during games and stuff. But I want to focus on how what they're doing on the pitch is affecting society and culture off the pitch. And so I just can't wait. What you should not expect from this podcast is for me to give any sort of in depth discussion or analysis of like tactics or how the game of soccer should be played. I might offer my opinion every now and again, but I really have no business even doing that. All of my knowledge and appreciation of this beautiful game of football comes from being a fan, not from any sort of training, not even from playing the game. I'm a fan. I watch a lot of soccer. So, with that said, what you can expect is discussion about basically anything and everything else. Women's soccer or football, depending on what part of the world you're in, is just taking the world by storm, and I am loving being a part of it. So, this podcast is going to talk about things like friendship and community within the women's game, the cultural impact of women's sport, LGBTQ plus representation and what that means in today's world and through women's sport, media representation for women's sport, and sort of all of the forms that could or has taken, money in the women's game and how that's really shaping so much of what's happening right now, and basically everything else. I couldn't list all of these things that we are going to talk about because who knows? Anything could happen. Basically, I have a ton of ideas that I talk to my friends about all day long. And I just thought, why not just start a podcast and record it and put it out for other people to listen to and potentially be a part of those conversations as well? So, although I do have a ton of ideas, like personally already that I'm excited about, I do hope that this podcast will be able to also talk about like current events in the women's game in a sort of like real time kind of way, while also incorporating some reflections on like past things that have happened and things that have gotten us to where we are now, because I think that's so important as well. Of course, there are certainly still plenty of like really difficult things and really, really unacceptable, quite frankly, disgusting things that are happening in and around the women's game. And so I certainly won't be shying away from those topics either, as I really feel like those might be some of the ones we need to talk about the most. So now that we've set expectations and you have some idea of what might be to come on this podcast, I want to talk a little bit about logistics. And I mean, like, literally just a little bit about. My hope is that this is going to be a weekly podcast. I think that's something I can do, considering I'm thinking about and talking about these things all the time, anyways. I haven't decided which day exactly I'm going to be releasing it. I will figure that out and I will let everyone know. So there will be more information to come on that. Early on in these episodes, you'll probably hear a lot of like just my voice, but my hope and plan is to invite other people who are much more knowledgeable about specific topics than I am to come on and like talk to me about it. I have incredibly brilliant friends who are involved in all kinds of different aspects of the game, and I've floated the idea to a few of them to come on my podcast, and they've like tentatively said yes. So I'm very optimistic that you won't have to listen to just me all the time, but maybe you will, and so we'll see how that goes. But now I want to give a special shout out to a specific friend, Michaela, who designed the cover art for this podcast. I had just made this like short little Instagram post about needing help with graphic design, and she answered the call and delivered the most perfect cover art for this podcast. If you haven't looked closely at it yet, first of all, what are you doing? Second of all, highly suggest that you go do that. Each on the soccer ball, they're like silhouettes of women. They're all actual real life soccer players, so you should go look at it and see if you can identify them. Let me know who you think they are. Because once you identify who those people are, you might see where some of my biases are, and that's okay. I will not shy away from the fact that I have specific teams that I support. No need to put that all out there right now. That will certainly become apparent as we go. Anyways, I just love that I have so many friends who are so willing to support this idea that I have. And I hope that it helps us in this community create something really special and meaningful and fun. Although again, not shying away from things that aren't always like fun and light and silly. But hopefully, the more we talk about those kinds of things, the more often we'll be able to talk about the fun and silly things because we'll be bringing light to those sorts of things. All of that to say, I am a huge fan of women's footy, and the sort of larger women's soccer community that I have found myself a part of. The goal for this podcast is that it will be an inclusive space where we can talk about anything and everything and just sort of enjoy the moment that women's soccer has created for us because it is our home ground after all.